Hey, it's John Pollock, and this is Fight News Now, the MMA edition. Hello and welcome to Fight News Now. It is John Pollock, and for the next 30 minutes, we are getting you up to date on everything in mixed martial arts. Today, we'll be joined by UFC lightweight Myles Jury and world-class trainers Firas Zahabi and Duke Roufus. Wai Ting is on assignment for the shift, and John Ramdine and Robin Black are scheduled for 3 rounds. But up first are this week's newsmakers. This weekend, the UFC hits Brisbane, Australia with Fight Night 33, headlined by a heavyweight bout that is doubtful to call upon the judges, as Mark Hunt and Antonio Silva both try to bounce back from losses they sustained at UFC 160 this past May and work their way back up the UFC's heavyweight division.
The last time Mark Hunt fought in Australia, his adopted home, he had just lost his UFC debut to Sean McCorkle, which made it 6 in a row for the Super Samoan.
When I was just losing especially, I still felt I was still the best fighter in the world.
At UFC 127, the home cooking proved beneficial as the former K1 Grand Prix champion returned to the win column with a walk-off uppercut knockout of Chris Tuchscherer. Hunt's path of destruction would continue as he tallied 3 more wins over increasingly difficult opposition, culminating with a knockout of top 10 ranked Stefan Struve. The 39-year-old would finally be given his shot to earn a title fight as he faced Junior Dos Santos at UFC 160, but the American top team member would suffer a knockout loss in the 3rd round. Now he returns to his adopted home looking to right the ship once again. Standing in his way is a man he's seen before, in the training room at American Top Team.
You know, we've got people to support and things to look out for, and that's just the way it is. It's our job. You know, I'll have the same respect for him I have now, even more after we fight.
With 2 first-round TKO losses to current champion Cain Velasquez, Bigfoot's chance at another shot against the AK standout are slim to none. But with signature wins over Travis Brown
and Brown might be out, Antonio Bigfoot Silva
and Alistair Overeem, he is clearly still a factor in the division. Bigfoot definitely has the more well-rounded skill set, and while he has knocked out a former K1 champion, the smart game plan for Silva would be to put the Super Samoan on his back and follow with ground and pound.
Silva is absolutely manhandling, dominating Fedor Emelianenko.
When 2 men this size enter the cage, the bout rarely sees the final bell. So tune in Saturday night and don't blink.
The first fight of the night will see a welterweight contest as Ben Wall and Alex Garcia make their UFC debuts. Garcia moved over from the Dominican Republic to Montreal, training out of TriStar, where he has fought for various Quebec-based promotions leading into the call-up by the UFC. We spoke to head coach Firas Zahabi about the latest TriStar product.
You know what? He's fighting in the new league, and he's fighting in Australia. I really think he's going to do great, but the first UFC fights are always the jitters, you know? Can you get over the jitters? Can you get into the routine? It's a very intimidating place, UFC. First fight in UFC, in my opinion, you're breaking the ice, you know? You can't. Most guys, they get starstruck. It really is. It's like going through the Olympics, you know? There's a lot of intimidation. You go there, they are the best in the world, the most professional, the highest paid, the most elite guys, the most cameras, the most footage, the most coverage. It's there, you know, so it can be very intimidating. I've seen guys who are so great and their UFC debut didn't show it. I really hope that Alex Garcia shows how great he is because he's an incredible talent. He's got the best double leg in the business. I think people are going to see it.
28-year-old Nate Diaz snapped a 2-fight losing skid this past Saturday with a dominant TKO victory over Gray Maynard to headline the Top 18 finale in Las Vegas. It was Diaz's 12th victory inside of the octagon, and despite talk of returning to welterweight after this fight, Diaz directed his words for fellow lightweights Anthony Pettis and Josh Thomson after his victory, indicating he is more than happy to stick around at 155.
I lost to Thomson, and Anthony Pettis is the champ, and he's, you know, supposed to be the hot shit right now, you know. And those are the guys to beat. I wasn't gonna leave this division and letting these 2 motherfuckers run the show. Now these 2 motherfuckers come in like they're the hot shit, so I wasn't gonna just bounce out of the division with them running the show. Me and Gilbert are gonna run a show here, and then I'll be on my way.
One man not shy about going up a few weight classes is Conor McGregor, who continues to nurse a knee injury sustained in his last fight this past August. McGregor has called out numerous fighters, but of late has singled out Diego Sanchez. On Twitter, Sanchez asked him to fight at welterweight when the UFC goes to Dublin, and McGregor agreed and messaged Dana White and Sean Shelby to book the fight. And we'll continue with fighter callouts with our tweet of the week from Khabib Nurmagomedov, the surging UFC lightweight, who says he wants to fight Gilbert Melendez as well to continue his giant rise in the 155-pound weight class. One fighter that is definitely planning to jump up a weight class is Eric Koch, who is making the move up to 155 pounds from featherweight. Koch was twice scheduled to fight Jose Aldo in 2012, but injuries prevented that title fight from happening. His coach, Duke Rufus, was a recent guest on the MMA Report with myself and discussed the move up in weight for Koch.
It's just been a struggle for him to make weight, and he's a young guy growing, and I think he's going to do great there. I'm excited about his new beginning. His last 2 fights, he lost to good fighters, but his last 3 fights, it's just been the weight cut is too much of a struggle for him. We're not even talking the week of the fight, we're talking a week or 2 before. He's not even coherent when I'm training him. It's affecting his mental energy to stay focused. There's an epidemic in our sport. I can't win a title at one weight class, I'm going to drop a weight class. But who's dropped a weight class and won a title yet?
And from the Rufus Sport Camp, we head over to another strong contingent in Alliance MMA out of San Diego, as tough Season 15 competitor in UFC lightweight Myles Jury stopped by our studios, and I sat down with the 13-0 Jury about his camp, Alliance MMA, trainer Eric Del Piero, and teammate Dominic Cruz.
What is kind of the secret down there amongst your team and just blossoming camp you guys have?
Well, I feel like, Alliance is a hotbed right now. You got so many great fighters coming there. And I feel like just the atmosphere in the gym is what brings everybody there. You got a lot of professional fighters there, and there's no egos. If I beat Chandler up and around, there's no me going to Twitter and being like, yeah, I'm the man. I beat, there's none of that. It's just all professional. We go in there. Sometimes you're the hammer. Sometimes you're the nail. Sometimes I do good, and sometimes I get my butt kicked. So, with that type of atmosphere and that mentality in there, it makes for like a really, really good bond with like my training partners. And then just the coaches, the coaches, like you said, Eric Del Piero, I feel like he's really underrated, but I feel like he's one of the best MMA coaches in the world. And yeah, so that with the atmosphere is what brings everybody to Alliance.
What really clicks for you working under Eric and some of the other coaches that for you yourself you really gel with?
I feel like with Eric, I've never had a coach to where I could be honest about my strengths and my weaknesses with. Right. And, I feel like with some past coaches, I feel like, they more on the strength. They don't like to talk about what's bothering you. But I feel like something with Eric, I can come to him with any type of problem, and we can work through it. And just with that type of mentality and that type of communication with them, it makes me trust them. And if any fighter out there knows, if you trust your coach and your coach trusts you, your potential just raises that much more.
Working with a guy like Dominic Cruz, I mean, this guy has just been through an absolute whirlwind. What are his spirits like right now? And as a teammate, just getting to see that, the light is finally there at the end of the tunnel for this guy.
His spirits are there. He's been, he's a competitor. He loves to compete. So, sitting back and watching him, I'm actually happy for him. I'm happy to see him in the gym, training now like he wants to train, pushing himself, getting better. And, he's hungry. He wants to get out there and compete and prove that he's the best fighter in the world.
And there you go. You can hear more of that Myles Jury interview this week on the MMA Report. And Mr. Ramdeen, kind of the theme there of our newsmakers were a lot of fighters talking about kind of jumping up weight classes, going down in weight classes. It seems that a lot of them feel, for the matchmakers here, I might not be available or another opponent might not be ready for me. If I'm available in 2 weight classes, that might up my chances for big fights. Are you a fan of guys going up and down, or would you like to just see, you stick to your weight class just for the fans' sake of keeping all these weight divisions straight right now?
No way. I don't care about titles. I don't care about rankings. If Diego Sanchez wants to fight at 170 pounds or 155 pounds and there's interesting matchups, give her.
All right, well, John Ramdeen here, the man of the people here, speaking the Bible here. Now, what's coming up on the Gospel according to Ramdeen and Robin today?
We're taking a look at Fight Night 33, and we'll tell you who could be on the chopping block following a loss in Australia.
Oh, geez, if you're a fighter fighting this weekend, don't watch 3 rounds because it might not be some added pressure you want going into Australia coming this weekend. 3 rounds is up next on Fight News Now. We are back on Fight News Now, and it's time to welcome in John Ramdeen and Robin Black for this week's edition of 3 Rounds as we head into another quiet weekend, guys, in mixed martial arts. We've got ONE FC, Legacy FC, Cage Warriors, Invicta FC, World Series of Fighting, and then we have a UFC card as well in there.
Oh my God, I'm going to be so busy. I can't wait, though. I love it. UFC, you talk about that. It's going down in Brisbane, Australia for Fight Night 33. The main event is a good one. Antonio Bigfoot Silva taking on Mark Hunt. Robin, you and I had a chance to talk about it. Mark Hunt's one of these guys that wins fights that he is not supposed to win, and he loses fights that he is absolutely supposed to win, like that submission loss to Sean McCorkle. But this is a guy that can turn your lights out with one punch. Is Bigfoot Silva, does he have a big enough ego to say, you know what, I knocked out one K1 champion, I'm going to go toe-to-toe with Mark Hunt and drop this guy too, because JDS did it.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. This is a good one, man. Friday night watching fights, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm totally in. It's going to be great. And this is one of those fun ones that you've never really given that much thought to. You know, you start to imagine the guys on the top of the division, of any division. What's this fight going to look like when we put fighter A with fighter B? Somehow this one kind of slid underneath the radar. And I like what you said. Hunt will win fights he's not supposed to win, and he is not supposed to win this one. Bigfoot only losing in the last 5 years to Velasquez twice, Verdum, and Daniel Cormier. And, you know, the big Samoan is not on that level. But, you know, the reason Hunt is so exciting is because he can win any fight, and often does. And when he fought Junior Dos Santos, the #2 guy in the world, we all sat around and could imagine him knocking him out, and it could happen this time too.
Is it as simple as Bigfoot Silva closing that distance, forcing Mark Hunt up against the cage, wearing him down there? He can win up against the cage or get the takedown, force the fight down to the ground and utilize his jiu-jitsu skills to get a submission, or go out, try to entertain, try to get $50,000 extra in your pocket.
When you have more ways to win, you want to use one of those ways that is the least dangerous. But, you know, between having a big crowd there, a crowd of Australians supporting their New Zealander, who they don't always support, but when it's an athlete fighting an athlete from somewhere else, they will definitely support him. You've got all of that thing going on. You've got the audience, you've got pressure, you've got your own team, you've got that desire to make money, you've got the influence of the audience who've lately been saying, you know, they don't like seeing guys get taken to the ground, they like seeing guys get lit up. You've got all of that happening, and you might just find yourself in a gunfight with a Samoan who knocks people out with one punch.
Talking about getting lit up in the co-feature, Mauricio Shogun Hua, the former UFC light heavyweight champion, taking on James Tahuna in a fight that could produce knockout or fight of the night. What do you anticipate from this fight? I mean, Shogun, one of the most well-rounded fighters in the light heavyweight division, maybe in all of mixed martial arts, a very underrated ground skills. But again, 32 years of age, but he seems like he's 52 years in age because of the miles that he's experienced over his mixed martial arts career. For James Tahuna, it could be the biggest win of his career. Anybody would love to say, I have a win over Shogun, but it'd be more impressive to say I have a knockout win over Shogun.
Yeah, and there's huge pressure on both guys. I mean, you're Tahuna, you're facing your biggest challenge, you're right close to home, you know, with an audience that's really on your side. And for Shogun, this is a fight, a guy like Shogun always wins, needs to win, must win. And when you're fighting like that, you do leave yourself open to getting hit on the chin, and his chin will be tested. But you got to figure that Shogun's going to go in there with a swagger and a lot of confidence. He's got, Chuck Liddell said he had the most power of anybody he ever fought. You know, he's got that in his pocket. He's only 32 years of age. He's got to win this fight. If he doesn't win this fight, his career is definitely taking a tough direction.
One of my picks for Fight of the Night, Takeya Mizugaki and Nam Fan. I think these guys are really going to showcase warrior spirit. Nam Fan's going to get hit a bunch of times. Mizugaki's going to get hit a bunch of times. They are going to show the fans what it means to just put on a show. We're going to see some technical abilities, but I think these guys are really going to showcase really show the fun of mixed martial arts.
Yeah, this is a great fight. Mizugaki, you know, he doesn't put guys away necessarily, but he does 3 or 5 really exciting rounds. Very technically talented on the feet, but willing to kind of throw that out the window to go for it. This card has a couple of guys that I think people who, you know, judge people a little too harshly can underestimate. And Nam Fan is one of these guys. You know, people look and go, oh, you know, he's not that good for whatever reason. Maybe he's, you know, the way he's fought in the UFC or whatever. But Nam Fan is somebody you don't underestimate. And Sal Palele also in a heavyweight tilt. Sal Palele, 22 fights, from the region, and a big heavy hitter, one of the most talented heavyweights outside of the UFC, and people will judge him because his first fight in the UFC against Krylov was a stinker. So you can't really sleep on some of these guys. This is a good card.
One of the unfortunate things about mixed martial arts is we get to see, one of the positive things is that we get to see some beautiful martial arts displays, but one of the unfortunate things is that we have a winner and we have a loser, and there will be a number of losers in Australia come Friday or Saturday night, depending on where you are. Do you expect some of these guys to get cut? We know Ryan Bader going to be taking on Anthony Perosh. If Ryan Bader loses to Anthony Perosh, does he get cut from the UFC?
I think he might. You know, this is a guy who was near the top, and now you're not able to hold it. Anthony Perosh, on the other hand, he's 4-2 in the UFC. He's 41 years old. He's from Australia. He's one of the pioneers of MMA in Australia. If he loses, he probably doesn't get cut. So that's a lot of pressure on Ryan Bader. And there are a few guys like this on this card. Ryan Bader goes into enemy territory against a guy he's expected to beat with all kinds of pressure on him. Anthony Perosh kind of walks out there, his nickname's the Hippo, and he goes, you know what? Hey man, I'm in my 7th UFC fight. Things are going pretty good. I think I'm going to do my best. You know, it's tough. Some of these ones, the pressure is not equal.
And you mentioned Sal Palele. He's going to be taking on Pat Barry. We know these guys are going to try to knock each other's blocks off. But for Pat Barry, not really the best record in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Is he in the same type of boat where, you know, you lose, especially spectacularly, you get knocked out like you did against Czech Congo? Does the UFC send him packing?
They seem to like this guy, and guys like that hang around. But, you know, I don't know what Pat Barry's thinking. I heard he only went down 2 days early. We traveled across the ocean, across the world to Russia, and you know how tired we were. You're only going 2 days early to fight in a cage fight in front of 15,000 people. That's not very good thinking, man.
And same with Shogun. If this guy does not beat James Tahuna, who knows? I know he's got a serious price tag, and the UFC might send him packing if he doesn't have an impressive performance. What do you anticipate?
Well, one thing, I think that Pat Barry, I think you're kind of overstating it here, because I got word that he fell asleep for 26 hours once he got to Australia, and everyone was worried about him in his hotel room to the point that myself and Robin allegedly had to call security to check on his room. Not calling anybody out, though, John Ramdeen in Russia. Thank you, guys. Ramdeen and Robin can be seen every Monday night at 7 Eastern. You never want to sleep through that particular half hour. It's the best hangover cure for any weekend, stacked with fight cards such as this one. On the other side, Wai Ting tracks down the creator of Street Fighter, and our weekly viral video is on tag, and it is absolutely stupid. We're back on Fight News now, and we've got live fight cards coming at you this weekend, kicking off with an early one Friday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern with ONE FC 13 from Manila in the Philippines, as Koji Oishi will be defending the featherweight title against Honorio Benario. And we're coming back at you Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern with Cage Warriors 62 from Newcastle, as Ulysses Gomez challenges Neil Seery for their flyweight title. Up now, though, it's The Shift as we welcome in Priscilla Carapan.
Best Street Fighter character Akuma first appeared in Super Street Fighter 2 back in 1994 and has become one of the most popular characters in the fight game genre. Udon Entertainment has released a graphic novel that reveals Akuma's origin, and for more details on that, we've got Wai Ting, who got a chance to chat with the creators.
If you're alive and playing video games in the 90s, chances are you know the names Ryu, Sagat, Blanca, but what about the baddest motherfucker of them all? We're here at the Beguiling in downtown Toronto to talk to the creators of Street Fighter Origins Akuma, the new comic book from Udon Entertainment. Let's go check it out. Chris, tell us what the story is about, Street Fighter Origins Akuma.
Well, Akuma is a very interesting character, right? He's known in the Street Fighter universe to be one of the most sinister, one of the most violent, demonic characters. So what this story tries to do is trace key moments in his life from when he's a kid all the way till when he's an adult, and we get a closer look at why he makes some of the choices that he has made over the years. Villains make choices that they think are right, are just in their mind. They just have a bit of a twisted ideology, or they've gone through experiences that have brought them to this point. So I feel like humanizing him was critical.
Were there any actual real martial arts, in particular some of the training scenes and some of the philosophies that were inside the book that you had to research, you know, to maybe give you some ideas?
Well, I have to admit, I've always been a boxing fan, and so I've always been interested in what must come with the decision to take on a life of fighting, the training that's necessary, the culture of fighting, and again, that key choice to decide this is what I am, this is what I'm going to be, this is what I'm going to dedicate my life to. That was fascinating to me.
What do you think are the advantages of, using a comic book to tell these stories?
The best part about comics is that there's really you don't need a huge budget to create really fantastically visual stories. So if I want to do a fireball or a hurricane kick and make it totally crazy and totally extreme, lots of energy, it's really simple to do. One trick that we usually do in Udon is we do one panel, but it's stop motion. So we would have Akuma, for example, repeated maybe 3 or 4 times to pull off a move. So one of the most fun moves I love drawing would be the hurricane kick. In the end, there's a pretty big fight scene. And what was cool about it was that Chris Saraceni, the writer, he actually let me kind of choreograph it. And originally it was about half the size that it ended up being, and I thought to myself that this fight scene needs to be more epic, and I wanted to add more pages to it. And it ended up being something like a 10-page fight that I put in the end, and that was probably by far the most fun I've had in this book.
What do you think it is about this particular character that, has drawn such a cult fan base?
Well, I mean, I think his whole attitude is very interesting. He's a man that carries himself with a code, even though it's a code that not many understand. And when people don't operate by the code that he, in his mind, wants to live by, causes some conflict.
That's it for The Shift this week. Back over to you, John.
Thank you to Priscilla and Wai for their Street Fighter tutorial. And now we're going to go to school in something different as we unleash this week's viral video.
Oh my God! He did in the chair, dude. Oh, I feel all right. He did the feel good. Chair, dude. Whew.
Sometimes you see headlines about how someone dies tragically, and I say, you know what? You don't know the circumstances. That's one where I'm not shedding one tear if that dude died. Thank you very much to our guests Myles Jury, Duke Rufus, and Firas Zahabi. For more with Myles Jury, you can catch the full chat on this week's edition of the MMA Report, up each Thursday at FightNetwork.com and iTunes. ONE FC 13 airs this Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern. On behalf of John Ramdine, Robin Black, Priscilla Carapan, Wai Ting, and the Fight Network crew, I'm John Pollock, and we'll chat with you next week.